Hey, on March 8th, an ebullient Department of Homeland Security, so-called Czar, Alejandro Mayorkas, tweeted that the Biden administration will add to the 30,000 migrants per month from 4 select nations it already has given 2-year paroles to stay here, despite them, of course, breaking federal immigration statutes. Yeah, you heard that right. The man charged with running the unconstitutional DHS and handling the collectivist, unconstitutional federal immigration statutes just openly celebrated giving passes to the people who broke the statutes he's supposed to enforce. And if you think that's absurd, get this. He celebrated because a Trump-appointed judge refused to hear plaintiffs' arguments to stop this process. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV, and Jason Cohen offers key details about this over at Daily Caller. Quote, the Parole program enables up to 30,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, CHNV, to enter the United States every month and stay for up to 2 years, according to the Department of Homeland Security's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. Texas and 20 other Republican-led states sued the administration over the program, which U.S. District Judge Drew Tipton dismissed, ruling that the plaintiffs failed to demonstrate how they have been injured under the policy. Well, Tipton denied the complaints from these 21 state offices because he claimed they didn't have standing. They have to show injury in order to challenge the policy, which is ironic given that no political entity can, on any tortious level, really show harm because no political entity is a real person. But on the constitutional level, where state attorneys general are supposed to be able to turn to the congressionally created federal court system to protest an interstate or federal versus state dispute, one would think that a breach in federal statute or a lack of executive branch enforcement of federal statute would be cause enough for any state government to cry foul in court. The policy in question, called the CNHV Humanitarian Parole Program, actually stems from an arbitrary April 2022 Biden administration policy move to grant non-citizens from Ukraine the ability to live in the U.S. without being deported or arrested. As the Justice Action Center's litigation tracker notes, quote, in October 2022, DHS created a similar process for Venezuelans. Then on January 5th, 2023, that process was expanded to include nationals of Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua. This activity itself was based on the Biden administration's interpretation of a 1952 statute called the Immigration Nationality Act, which, though it doesn't specifically do this, has been interpreted by the Bidenistas as giving him and the DHS secretary, a position that obviously didn't exist in 1952, while giving them wide leeway to open or close immigration doors to large numbers of people from any nation state the administration in power chooses. Meaning that since the establishment of this policy, an aggregate of 30,000 people per month from those nations can be granted so-called parole by the DHS. Now, the lead in the charge against the policy was the state of Texas, but Judge Tipton not only found that the state didn't have standing as having been injured, well, according to Litigation Tracker, quote, in fact, the court emphasized that Texas did not and cannot dispute that following the implementation of the CHNV, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela parole programs, there are fewer CHNV nationals entering the U.S., and that as a result, Texas is spending less money, not more. Thus, the judge is allowing the feds to welcome 30,000 more migrants per month and also allowing the feds to prevent states from citing them as illegal immigrants for up to 2 years. And it's at this point that any conservative or other person who calls himself a constitutionalist might want to bring up what I try to stress to students and to readers and viewers at MRC-TV. The U.S. Constitution leaves the matter of immigration to the states and doesn't even contain the word immigration or the word immigrant. And the only reason contemporary Americans fight over what the feds should do at the border is because of an 1875 Supreme Court ruling in the case of Chi Lung v. Freeman, which was a challenge to a California statute imposing a charge on boat owners who were facilitating ingress of Chinese women, whom many politicians portrayed as likely prostitutes. With the ruling, the justices at that time simply made up federal immigration control, saying in part this ridiculous statement, which easily can be refuted by actually reading the Constitution. The passage of laws which concern the admission of citizens and subjects of foreign nations to our shores belongs to Congress and not to the states. This led to the federal passage of the Page Law the same year. That was a statute that restricted lower-priced Chinese immigrant labor and, of course, established from that point on that states would suffer the loss of their constitutionally granted power over immigration. Those are the facts, and they're essential rounds of intellectual ammunition for those who are interested in understanding this new legal loss for Texas and the other state attorneys general. If they want to call themselves constitutionalists, Americans on any side of this migration debate ought to be honest about the so-called rules and how they've been corrupted by justices in 1875 and people like Biden and Mayorkas. And even a federal judge today ought to know better. A lot better. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate everybody being interested in these historical precedents and finding out about the roots of some of this corrupt dispute that we see here, based on flimsy, invalid foundations brought up by politically appointed justices from centuries ago. It's amazing to see how we're still dealing with some of these things. Hey, please find us on Rumble, by the way, and share the videos over at Rumble with friends far and wide. Follow us there and ask your friends to follow MRC-TV there as well. You can still find us over at YouTube, but they are censorious over there, so we have to be super careful. And of course, you can find us all the time inside Facebook. Look for the MRC-TV page on Facebook and chat with all the friends over there. And find us, of course, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Parole, and on Twitter/X. On Gab, you can find me as @GardnerGoldsmith. And if you want to find me on Twitter/X, just look for me as @GuardGoldsmith. And please visit MRCTV.org to find out what the team is doing. Check out the MRC-TV store, and please consider donating to the Media Research Center to help us in our great fight against left-wing bias and for freedom. Thanks for watching, everybody. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.
I want to invite you as my guest on a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, 7-day post-election cruise in the Caribbean. It's going to be a blast.